Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to having a co-host, Jeff Kikowski from Zolman and Saxy. Jeff, welcome. Excited to co-host this with you with Howie Busch. Howie, I'm really excited to interview you and talk about not only your business, but you as an entrepreneur. Howie is the founder and dude-in-chief at DudeRobe. So I want to kind of, you have a great story, right? So you've been on Shark Tank right here. So we can, you're with your product, which I think is something that we're going to talk about. But I want to give a little bit of background because you've got a really cool background, and you're an inventor, you're an attorney, you're the founder and dude-in-chief at DudeRobe, where basically you created a cooler bathrobe and loungewear for men, and you appeared in season 9 of Shark Tank. You're an excuse me, you're an idea guy. Sorry about that. You're an idea guy and an entrepreneur. And I really want to kind of start talking about how you entered this space that was, for some, maybe would think was already crowded. How did you come and enter it? I just want to rewind for a minute. I'm going to be 49 this year. When I was in college, I interned at Channel 7 at the news desk. And one of the things I always talked about is you got to be fast, first, and right. And one of the things I learned about reading and marketing as I over the last many years from Al Ries and Jack Trout, that if you can't be first, create a new market. And so that's what appealed to me about your product, which I bought for my son and then I bought for myself. So I'm not only a fan, I'm also a client.
Right? Boy.
Yeah. And so I reached out, and you couldn't have been kinder to reach back out to me. So talk a little bit about what was your mindset entering a market that you needed to create a new section?
Yeah. First of all, let me say thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. And my goal, I've got you who bought 2. My goal is to get Jeff to buy one by the end of this episode. That's kind of, me. I'm setting the bar low, but that's where I'm going.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't look at it like, oh, there's a crowded market. As you mentioned, like I was an inventor, that was really only in the last, let's call it 7-8 years. I would develop products, get them to a certain point, like with intellectual property, and then license them out in exchange for royalty to a leader in that space. Let them do it. Let them take the inventory risk. They're already selling. They're already making it. That was a great model for me. And then this idea came to me, by the way, ironically, in the shower. And it was gnawing at me for 2 weeks. And I'm like, put my product developer hat on. I'm like, I'm not a robe guy. I've never been a robe guy my whole life. And I'm, maybe once or twice in a hotel, but we're not going to talk about that. But, I really, it was bothering me, what would I wear? And so for 2 weeks, I'm thinking about it. I'm seeing my wife in her robe. I'm looking at it. I'm like, I'm not wearing that. I'm like, towels are kind of cool, but I'm not wearing that. And then one day there was a hoodie hanging on the thing next to the towel. I'm like, you know what? If I combine those 2 things, that I'd wear. And literally that day I jump out of the shower, get dressed, run to Walmart, buy 6 towels, bring them to my tailor who had done some other things for me and other products that I've done. And I said, can you make a hoodie and pants out of this? And a week later, and $150 later, I had my first prototype. I mean, it was that simple. So then I said, do I have
the Reese's peanut butter cup?
It's I used that for the first time, 2 weeks ago. I used that analogy to somebody about the DudeRobe.
Have you seen the Food That Built America?
No.
You got to watch the Food That Built America season 2. One of the episodes is about the guy who invented the guy named Reese, who invented the Reese's peanut butter cup. Based on that story, you got to watch it.
I will.
I'll email it to you. I'll email you the episode. All right, keep going.
Awesome. So, but then my thought was, all right, here's the problem. I have something. I showed it to my son, who at the time was probably, I don't remember. He was probably 18 or so, or 20. He loved it. I showed it to some of my friends. They loved it. I'm like, you know what? I really think I have something here. But here's the problem. My MO at the time, in addition to inventing and licensing out my products, which this product wasn't very licensable because apparel generally is difficult to license out unless you have some sort of, tech apparel, tech fabric or something like that, which I didn't have. And so that was one thing. And the other thing was I was coaching other inventors and product developers how to get their products to market at the time. So I said, this could be a cool Kickstarter, because I think calling it a men's robe and calling it DudeRobe, it could rise above the noise on Kickstarter and do okay. And the other part of it was I should probably learn how to do a Kickstarter from teaching people how to get their products to market. That's kind of a new and upcoming thing. So let me do it. And as an entrepreneur, and I've kind of always been like this, my attitude is try it, man. Like if you don't know, like you got to put it out there, right? Like I didn't have anything perfect, but I'm like, let me try this. Let me put it out there. And then that was the kick. I prepared for it, but we launched with the Kickstarter campaign.
So Howie, once you kind of do your Kickstarter campaign and you're going, how much time was this taking of you, and how was that impacting other things that you were working on at that time? Because I assume you had obviously a career of some sort that you were getting up doing day to day.
Yeah, well, yes and no. So like I said, I was inventing products and licensing them out. So I had royalties coming in from that. I was also coaching other inventors and product developers. That was taking up a lot of time. And then like preparing for the Kickstarter took a lot of time. Like to do a Kickstarter right, it's not just you show up. I had other inventors that be like, I tried Kickstarter, it didn't work. I'm like, well, what'd you do? They said, I put it up there and nobody came and bought. And that's not how it works, right? Like you want to build something, build a foundation. You have to prepare beforehand. You have to let people know that you're doing it. You have to bring your people to the party. So I launched in, let's call it was May 29th of 2017. That was the launch of my Kickstarter campaign, which was basically the launch of the company. Literally 1 week into it, the head of casting of Shark Tank tweets at me and says, I love it. Let's talk. And it was a whirlwind from there. And I got to be honest with you. And this is like one of the biggest lessons I learned, and I knew it, but it really was true. Like we all try and wait for that perfect time, right? Like, oh, this holiday is coming. Let me not do it then, or let me not do it for whatever reason. And for me, I wanted to launch this in January, February and get the winter, right? This is more of a winter product theoretically. So I wanted winter. I was hoping to get Valentine's Day, but my samples weren't ready. So I'm like, you know what? It's June, basically. Screw it. It's not perfect. I'm going to launch. And I believe if I didn't, I wouldn't have stood out as much, and the head of casting a Shark Tank would not have reached out. So it was pretty crazy. I thought someone was messing with me at first, to be honest.
I love it. All right. I want to dive into that. I want to dive into Shark Tank. Sure. I've interviewed a couple people who have been on Shark Tank on the show, and I kind of have the same question initially for all of them. I want to know what it was like the initial walk into the Shark Tank, right? Because when you watch it, it's such a dramatic, walk. They open up the doors, the music's playing, they're saying, here's da 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 da, and then you walk and you have to start your pitch right then and there, right?
Well, John, let me tell you, I'm going to give you the answer that only I can give you.
Yeah.
Because I didn't walk into the tank. The way they wanted me to set it up, the way we discussed with the producers that I was working with, I was actually in a chair, like a high-backed club chair. They wanted me in like I won't get into all the details of the reason, but basically they wanted me to have a butler. They wanted to spin me around in a chair. So I was sitting in the room while they're in there. They didn't know I was there because I'm turned around. It was a high chair. You couldn't see me. So they had no idea. They're sitting there talking and laughing, the sharks. My butler, who in real life is a Fortune 100 corporate attorney, is my best friend from law school.
Great.
He walks in. I'm sitting there. He walks in, like bows to the sharks, and then spins me around. So what I'll tell you is, for me, I don't typically, I'm not like an overly nervous person to speak or whatever.
Yeah.
The first 90 seconds, that pitch that you do, I was nervous because I don't like memorizing things. When I was up talking to the sharks, it was like this. And I remember thinking like literally looking down at myself in theory and feeling like I could be talking to anybody right now. But it was that memorization of that 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Every time I rehearsed it, and there's a lot of rehearsing on your own, and then you do a dress rehearsal basically without the sharks. The sharks don't see it until that literally your live pitch. Every time there were one or two places where I would have a little stumble, nothing that would be bad, nothing you would watch and be like, oh my God, but it'd be like a little stumble. And I was like, oh man, I gotta not stumble. And I happened to deliver it with my best delivery with no stumbles when it was on the line. I was fortunate to not stumble then.
So interestingly, so we know, maybe our guests don't know, that you ended up walking out of the tank without a deal. And
who invited this guy?
Right. I mean, who brought the negative?
No, but here's my thing.
I can't edit it out, Howie. It's live. It's live.
In the end, in hindsight, do you think that was good? Do you think that actually helped you, or how did you feel?
It's a good question, and I'll tell you this. I have so much to say about that. So first of all, going in, I did not expect to get a deal. I was literally, like I said, they reached out to me a week in. I was filming 3 months later. So it was off the Kickstarter. I didn't even have my goods in the country yet, right? Like I didn't have anything made. So I didn't even have a website. I just sold on Kickstarter. Then I was selling on Indiegogo, and that was it. So I didn't expect to get a deal. When I didn't get a deal, and I told my wife and friends that I was going on, I'm like, look, don't expect me to get a deal. Here's my belief. I'm 25% likely to get a deal because I'm so charming. Well, clearly I'm not as charming as I think I am because I didn't get a deal. But I really didn't expect yet. As I'm walking out of there, and for like the next week, I would say, even though I didn't expect to get a deal, and even though if I didn't know if I wanted a deal, I was kind of devastated. Surprisingly, it was something. I think there's ego tied up in it that
Sure.
you put yourself out there and you want them to just get it and see it and make you an offer, whether you get a deal or not.
Sure.
So that's how I felt. And looking back, I'm not a big look back guy, to be honest with you, other than to learn from the experience if it ever comes up again. So I can't say, was it better for me? Was it not better? Things are really good. In the end, it's probably better for me. But I'll tell you this, what a lot of people don't know is we have a private Shark Tank group. Literally, it's just the entrepreneurs. There are probably about 550 or 600 of us in this private Facebook group. And it's like having your own mastermind group or whatever you want to call it. And it is the most incredible group that all helps each other with both different introducing for relationships, what's working, what's not working. It is absolutely, my fulfillment center comes from there. My marketing team comes from there. Everything I do comes from, because obviously, you never know what's going to work and what's not. But if it worked for somebody who's in a similar situation, and here's what I'll tell you. We're in this group, and many of them are very successful. Many of them didn't get deals who are very successful. Some did. None of us know who got a deal and who didn't get it. I mean, you can look it up, of course, but it's just never even a thought. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. That's great.
That's awesome. Go ahead,
Go
John.
ahead. You have another question?
Yeah, well, I was just going to ask. So, in this mastermind group, I mean, is it all industries represented?
It's anybody who's been on Shark Tank who stood on the carpet and aired.
Got it. So it's 100% Shark Tank related.
100% Shark Tank, and not everyone is in it. Look, obviously, some people would choose not to be in it, but you have to be introduced into it.
Yeah.
So you have to know somebody. You can't just kind of knock on the door. You have to have spoken to somebody who, and they have to vouch for you, so to speak.
Sure.
And I would say we've talked about it in the group. We had a reunion, right? End of 2019, we were going to do another one, except COVID got in the way. It's incredible. The energy and the vibe of people helping each other. It really is. We do all. And if you ask, I would say 80% of the people in there, maybe more, would say the best part about being on Shark Tank is being in this group.
Is it the group? Yeah, that just sounds like a great network.
Yeah.
Are you active day to day in DudeRobe? So is that
Yeah, it's taken over my life, basically. It's in a good way. we had some struggles along the way. And when I say struggles, I had a lot of good stuff. Every step of the way, there was a lot of good stuff. And I'll tell you, I don't know if you want to get, I know you don't want to get too into the weeds in terms of like from a marketing perspective, like what.
No, I love talking about marketing. Go.
Yeah. So I was interesting. So quickly, you know, we had good success, but given that we weren't an existing company going into Shark Tank, I didn't really capitalize other than direct sales from when we aired. It was, you know, we were inundated, but I really wasn't set up to capture everything and then remarket to people and do things like that. So over the course of the next 2 years after airing, our Facebook ads weren't converting, and we really weren't getting tremendous success that way. I had professional sports teams ordering in the NBA. I had athletes wearing it. We had a lot of cool stuff. What kept me going with it, and here's what's interesting. So Amazon, my website wasn't doing well, I think because in large part, when you do Facebook ads, you have to have your email system set up. You have to have everything set up to work together. And so I would try it with different agencies, and nobody could get it to work for 2 years. But Amazon did well. And then I would do, are you guys familiar with Touch of Modern?
Yeah.
It's a male skewing cool stuff for guys, like flash deal site. And every time I would do a deal on Touch of Modern, I would sell out like that. And it was crazy. And I became one of their top 10% of their vendors. And so I knew from that, that's what kept me going in the business. Otherwise, why would I keep doing it if it wasn't successful? But I knew that we were just missing something, right? If we hit the right audience with the right message at the right time, the right price point, they're going to buy. And early last year, almost a year ago, maybe 13, 14 months ago, one of my Shark Tank friends introduced me to somebody who was getting good return on ad spend for him on Facebook. And he introduced me, and all of a sudden I started getting return on ad spend for the first time. And then we scaled it up, and it's been a crazy ride over the course of the past, whatever it is, 14 months, 15 months. And even of course, since inception, it's been a crazy ride, but we've kind of cracked the code a little bit, which really changed everything.
Yeah. I love that story, and I appreciate you sharing, the how you needed to really dig deep into the resilience of business, because I think people think you're on Shark Tank, everything's great, and you look under the sheets, and there's a harder story for every entrepreneur, right? I mean, we all can point to those stories, but I just want to dive into a little bit more on your mindset, right? What's the mindset over the last couple years? Has been harder than maybe previous years, but what was your mindset to keep going, keep trying? And this is the most important part, keep investing not only in the company, but yourself, right? Because here you are spending dollars out, less dollars coming in, but in your gut, because of how you're wired, right? You're an inventor. So that it's there. It just takes time.
So let me disabuse you of one word that you use to describe me, even though I will sometimes say it, but I'll put it in air quotes. I'm an inventor. Like, I can't make anything. I am the least handy person in the world. I'm more of an idea guy, like you said earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I could get someone else to make the thing, because I can't make anything.
Right.
So first of all, I wasn't spending more than I was taking in. I was still doing okay with it. It just wasn't doing as well as I wanted it to do. So I did put money into it, but I was cash flow positive, which is obviously an important, it's a good thing. So I guess your real question is, what made me stay with it? And
what made you stay with it when a lot of people would have maybe stopped?
Yeah. By the way, there were a lot of steps along the way. There were a lot of things, roadblocks, obstacles, whatever you want to call it, where some people may have stopped. And I'm certainly not the only one. I think that's a very common story amongst my Shark Tank group that we talk about, is the resilience and the, finding a way around the obstacles and dealing with it, right? And you may be down for a day or 2 days or whatever it is, a week, but you got to figure out a way around it. I'll give you a good example. Well, let me answer your question before I give you the example. I knew there was something there, and I think it was that Touch of Modern I was getting real sales. And forget Touch Your Modern, even like on my website and on Amazon, the response of people who got it, who received it, was like, I love this. Thank you for making it. Like weirdly positive comments that I wouldn't make about if I bought a piece of apparel, but thankfully people were saying it to me. They like, this is the greatest piece of clothing I've ever bought. Thank you. Like, not 1 or 2 or 10. I mean, I was getting a lot of those. Yeah. And so that's part of what keeps you going. Then the sales were good enough that I knew I had something. And the Touch of Modern really was something that I kept pointing to, that I said, I have to figure out a way to replicate the audience, like hitting that and getting everything, like my systems synchronized, my website and the email server, not server, my email service provider, get everything, my flows that come from my website, right? Like as you put someone into a funnel, I never got that. People would talk about funnels. I'm like, I understand it intellectually, but I don't get it. Now I get it. And it's really important to have everything working together in unison. Oh, and so the story I was going to tell you, I'm sorry, was just recently.
Wait, before you tell your story, I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
The DudeRobe clothes, right? I'm so glad. So I ordered them for my son. The wrong size pants came. I emailed them. They sent the right pair, and I kept the large. They're hands down the most comfortable things ever. I am in a playroom right now that I've been in since April 1st, quarantining because of COVID. Then I got COVID, mild case, so I'm fine. But I was sharing with you before we went live. I mean, granted, maybe this isn't making me look in the best, but I've been wearing them every day for 16 days. So I have my black t-shirt on and my DudeRobe sweatpants.
Stand up, let's see them.
Look,
how they holding up.
They're good. They're good. Well, you can't really see them, but here, right?
Oh.
Here, right? Yeah.
You got
they
look good on you.
Thank you. They are great.
So Howie,
I just want to echo that.
The pants that you sent to Giannis, like, are they shorts for him, or do you make custom sizes for 7-footers?
He only had the robe, and believe it or not, we've never done a custom one, but my factory did do a custom one for him.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't. By the way, when I say it's custom, we guesstimated based on what his parameters are, like that you could grab from the website. Who knows how well it fit him? I can't answer you.
Yeah,
that's
fun. Great. All right, so sorry. So I interrupted your story. I just wanted to give an extra plug of comfort.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Always appreciate it, man. I never get tired of hearing from customers tell me that they love it. And by the way, and we make changes like based on not if we hear from one customer, of course, but like there are customers who've said, I love it, but I didn't like this, or I didn't like this. I didn't love anything. I didn't like this. If we hear it enough, like we're listening and we make changes, like the belt. We heard it enough. The belt was up a little high. We made a change. That's now changed. A couple of other things like that we're in the midst of changing based on customer feedback. So we really do listen
but I'll say this too, real quickly. I know I don't mean to interrupt your story again, but the service.
I don't think there is a story.
No. But the customer service, I just want to say how impeccable it was. I emailed. They got back to me within minutes. They had the new thing sent out immediately for my son. And it was the experience was that of Zappos, right? Easy, quick, to the point. And then the new stuff was here immediately. So I just want to kind of point that out because I think that's critical in today's world. Okay, now this story better be good.
No, it's not that great a story. I forgot it. There was no story. Jeff said there's no story. No, it was about resilience. And what I was going to say is I had this earlier this year, actually since inception, I had this ridiculous FedEx rate, and it was through a friend's account. And whatever. And so it really helped my margins, right? Like it was ridiculous. When I would go into FedEx, if I was dropping off a box to FedEx when I was self-fulfilling, they'd be like, this rate is crazy. Like this is like better than our rates, like as FedEx. And I lost that rate earlier this year. And I'm like, whoa, that is a huge hit. Like margin wise, like, I don't know if we can now, like, I had done some flash deals, like Good Morning America. We were on like flash deals. The margins are so thin, like doubling your shipping cost is a big deal. And like, you'll end up losing money on the deal. And so, I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, is this thing going to put me out of business? And so my fulfillment center has a decent rate. But it's double what I was paying. And we made a couple of tweaks to when we charge for shipping, when we don't charge for shipping, how much we charge for shipping. And it really hasn't impacted us overly negatively in that, it hasn't hurt our conversion because, you're spending $150, let's say, for a robe and shorts. So it's another, $9.95, $9.50, whatever it is. For shipping, it's not the end of the world, right? From a percentage standpoint. So, there's just ways around. I don't want to say there's ways around everything, but every situation as an entrepreneur, it's incumbent upon you to figure out a way around it and make it work. That's the mindset. And I said something earlier, and I think it's really important. Like, this is, and I tell people this all the time. Like when I speak at different things at universities, or I spoke at the Patent and Trademark Office, like most inventors and business people in general, they wait for the perfect situation, the perfect time, whatever it is. They wait for their product. They iterate and iterate and iterate, and I guess that means they reiterate. But they want perfect, and get it as good as you can, and then iterate as you go. Like my robe could have been. The belt could have been lower, but you know what? I could have tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. The answer is get it out there, get the feedback, and then, adapt as you go.
Yeah. We like to say that's why Baskin & Robbins has 31 flavors. You can't build the ultimate that's going to satisfy every single person's needs. And so it's great to hear that you listen to the feedback. So some people, are loving it. Some people are having a different experience, but you're listening, seeing the trends, and you're willing to pivot. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Great to hear. It's refreshing.
Yeah. No, it's great. All right, Howie, you ready for a quick speed round?
Yeah, man. Whatever you got, bring it.
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
I think I just said it. I think it's don't wait for perfect. Like, when I really buy into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your advice to a recent college grad who's looking for direction?
Well, ironically, I've got two. So my daughter graduates in 2 weeks. So
congrats.
Thank you. What?
Congratulations.
Thank you. But she's got her job. I would say, it's your journey, right? To whoever the grad is, it's your journey. Now is, in my opinion, I would say take one of two paths. If like both of my kids are ending up going the big company route, like my son went and worked at one of the big 4 accounting firms. That was his background. My daughter is going to one of the biggest consulting firms. That's what she wants. But I also think now is a time when you're in college and even right after college, if you've got an idea, a business idea, and you want to go for it and you can do it and you can support yourself or you have supportive family or whatever it is, do it, man. Just go for it. Because now is the time. Like, here's what I would say. Don't think that like, oh no, I'm going to be 25 or 26 and then it'll be too late to get my career started, because that's like just an old way of thinking, and I don't think I really don't. Even looking back at my own life, I started a company. I worked for a couple of years, started a company, and then went to law school. And I was like 20. I think I was 26 when I started law school, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm too old to be starting law school. And it's just not true. Like when you look back on your life and you see, I forget who was I reading about. One of the most successful guy. It may have been. Well, it doesn't matter. One of the biggest companies. You look at a lot of these guys. They went and they did Teach for America or this or that, and they didn't start until their late 20s or whatever it is, and then they built whatever it is they're building. You got to enjoy the journey. Don't only look at the destination. That's what I would say.
I think that's so important. I think looking back, I'm going to be 49 this year. Looking back at, myself in my 20s, it was like I was going so fast. I don't enjoy the journey as much as I should have, and I think it's so important. I love that advice.
Yeah, don't look at your friends and say, "Oh, they're making more than me." Who cares?
Yeah, I think one of the things I learned the older I get is run your own race, right? Don't look at everybody else. Just 100%. Keep on running your own race. Yeah, absolutely. Favorite book and why?
I think I would say, and I kind of put them together. So I'm going to put two together because I don't remember which anecdotes are from which. I think it's Outliers and David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell. So
good. They're such good books. Yeah.
They're incredible and give you such perspective. And the way he, pitches out the information and parses it for you is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, I love those books. I love how you're always putting two things together, Howie. That seems to be
well, it's funny.
A common theme.
I'm known as like a great lookalike person, and I'll often do cross betweens. I'm like, if you put that person together, that person, that's who you look.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to start looking at things that way. Yeah, I like that. Kat, you have any more questions for Howie?
Favorite swear word?
It's got to be fuck. I didn't know. I almost used it before, and I stopped myself, and I'm like,
yeah, I don't know if we can use that on LinkedIn, but hey, we'll know today.
We're gonna find out soon.
Thanks for co-hosting. Thanks for co-hosting with me, Jeff, and getting me on social networks. Right. No, I'm joking. Well,
it's a great word, though. By the way,
it is a great word.
It defines right. It can help define so much. Right.
Things. Just for emphasis.
Howie, I want to recap a couple things. I love how you talked about, don't wait for perfection, jump in and try it. I think sometimes so many people, do that and they get in their own way. Sometimes you just gotta, sell the tickets, then make the movie and just follow the gut. I love your story about resilience, your mindset about keep going. And also, I just want to kind of highlight listening to, your customers. It is so important, and about the nuances and the little things and just from my own experience, how you internally run, which we really didn't talk about, just the customer service, the way you go about your shtick, the personality of the brand. We'll have you on again and kind of talk about, just the whole element of that. But, my son loves your product. I love your product. It's incredibly comfortable. And I love it. And I appreciate you taking time to be on the show. Tell everybody who, which I think they can kind of get a feel, but who your ideal clients are and where they can buy the products.
Cool. So DudeRobe.com is the easiest place to go. You can always go on Amazon as well. It's funny because women are buying it also. I would say it's obviously men. I would say high school age, upper high school to my age and above. Like I would say I would say we're in their 60s, but the sweet spot is probably like late 20s, early 30s to, 50, I would say is really the sweet spot of it. But the funny thing is, in terms of knowing your customer, it's a little tricky because my customer, my user is almost always going to be male right now. And it doesn't need to be. I have a lot of women buying it. I have a lot of women saying they're stealing their husbands, their boyfriends or whatever. And we're going to start introducing more of a unisex appeal, because the truth is and I really do believe this, even when I launched it, being a dude is way more about your attitude than it is about your gender. And so there's no reason women can't wear this. It's comfortable. So many women are like, I love it. I don't want floppy sleeves either. When I'm cooking in the morning or whatever, who needs floppy sleeves? So that's what I would say. That's who the ideal,
All right.
Anybody's a dude.
I love it.
I already bought. I was online.
Right. I mean, Amazon Prime, you should be able to click while, we're going. All right, Howie, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate you being on the show. Kat, it was fun co-hosting with you. Think Community, DudeRobe.com. Check it out. Jeff, any final thoughts?
No, I just appreciate your time. Great story. And I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, I love it.
Thanks, guys. A couple of good dudes.
Thanks, man. Fellas, stay on the line. I'll be right back. Thanks, everybody.